Good afternoon all, welcome back to Carrow Road. First time for a couple of weeks, but unfortunately the winning streak is over for Norwich City. No drastic damage done, of course. A 1-1 draw with Blackburn, and with Watford winning their game against Birmingham. That means that the lead has been cut to 8 points. We have to see how Swansea get on in the later kickoff. They're at home to Cardiff, local derby of course, there. And if they win, then that means that they can close the gap to 10 points, and they would still have a game in hand as well, which I think is at Sheffield Wednesday for Swansea. So that would still keep things interesting, but Swansea have had a little bit of a wobble recently, haven't they? But a 1-1 draw today that goes down as a hard-fought draw in the end, but you got to give Blackburn a decent bit of credit. They came into this game with 1 win in 10 matches. They'd slipped down to 15th. They had a fairly decent first half of the season, didn't they? They were missing their top scorer today, Adam Armstrong. They have had a few injury problems recently, and they kind of went toe-to-toe with Norwich. And Daniel Farke did tee this up a little bit, because he said that he thought they would play without pressure because of their position. They haven't really got anything to play for. They can't get into the playoffs, and it's very unlikely they're going to be in the relegation mix. So they did express themselves. They didn't play with any tension in them at all. And you thought that certainly once Norwich took the lead, which was through Kenny McLean early in the second half, 53rd minute, you kind of got the feeling that maybe they're going to run out of steam. But Tony Mowbray rolled through his substitutes, and it did work for them. They found some energy, they dug deep, and they kept working hard. And Norwich created much bigger chances in this game. They had the better chances, more of the chances. 16 shots, 7 of them on target, but Blackburn had 11 shots and 4 on target. Norwich had 55% of possession. So they pushed the leaders really hard today, and they deserve credit for disrupting Norwich. Norwich had to work hard defensively. They did really well to nullify Timu Pukki on the whole. They sort of stuck to him like glue, really, made sure that he didn't have much chance to run in behind. And it just felt like they'd done their homework, really, but they backed themselves to cope with Norwich. And given City came into this with 9 wins on the spin and looking for a club record 10th, that deserves a bit of respect. So, fair play to Blackburn. But it is a frustrating one for Norwich, and injuries overshadowing this as well. Dimitris Giannoulis, he went off in the 30th minute, concussed. Pretty heavy collision, actually, with let me just remind myself of his name, Joe Rankin Costello, who was the right back playing for Blackburn, who just sort of thundered into an aerial challenge harder than he needed to, really. And I don't think there was really any intent or malice in it, but it was pretty clumsy, and he ended up sort of forearm smashing Dimmy in midair, and he looked pretty groggy to start with, and there was definitely concerns about concussion to start with. He had a good check over, carried on for a little while, did actually create one chance with a cross, but then went down again and just didn't look happy. So he took quite a while to wander off the pitch. That will probably put his involvement with Greece in doubt, but we'll have to see how it settles down. It's not like he got a massive crack head-to-head sort of clash. You may well find that he's okay in the morning and that he's shaken off and he can still join up with Greece. But that meant Jakob Sorensen coming in at left-back, and unfortunately he was the man who was beaten in the air for the equaliser. Did okay in open play, but nothing too special. Obviously, he's been really, ever since he came out of the team, has been working in training and coming on generally as a substitute in midfield, isn't he? He's been trying to get back to that position that he specialises in, but Javi Quintilla wasn't on the bench, so there wasn't a direct left back to come in for Dimmy. So that was worrying, but the bigger one, arguably, and Daniel Farke certainly sounds concerned about it, can't put any timeline or anything on it at the moment, is Ben Gibson, who we've got some photos which we've already put out on Twitter and things like that, of Ben rolling his ankle about the 80th minute, I think it was, after a corner when he tried to head goalwards, and he just managed to head it against Darragh Lanahan. And just the goal over my shoulder here basically went off to the left of it, and there's the slight camber behind the goal. Whether that had anything to do with it, I don't know. But he certainly rolls his ankle quite heavily. I think it's his right ankle. And stretchered off. Immediately looks in a lot of pain. And it looks, could well be damaged ankle ligaments. Might even be the end of his season, which would be a real big shame. I don't think there's going to be anything which stops Norwich from making that deal permanent. fingers crossed, if everything goes through and they get over the line and seal the deal, they are still on 83 points with 8 games remaining. So I think that they should be all right, shouldn't they? But that was a real blow and cast a bit of a shadow over things, really. So. Man of the match, to go for a positive. I thought Ollie Skip was excellent today, really, really good. And again, that probably emphasises the attacking ambition that Blackburn showed today, that he had to intercept a lot of attacks. He broke things up and he was just all over the place, really. Just his reading of the game is so good. You can see why that lad has got such a big future in the game. And I thought he played really well. Good bit of urgency on the ball as well. Likes to drive forward at times when he sees that bit of space, doesn't he? We've seen that a few times recently. And I thought he was really good. Kenny McLean as well, not far off an 8. But Skip's the only player I'll give an 8 in my ratings. For a 7, I'll go McLean, Hanley, Gibson, Aarons, and then Dowell and Campwell just about, and Buendia as well, because they did create things. Things didn't come off. There was certainly a first half of frustration for Buendia. Him and Max Aarons had a bit of a Barney towards the end of the first half that Grant Hanley had to calm down. I think Max said something along the lines of stop moaning, with maybe a few expletives in there as well. And then probably just dipping into 6. Tim Krul had a bit of a dodgy game with the ball at his feet, which is unlike Tim, obviously, and looked a bit frustrated at times. Pookie, as I say, didn't get a great deal, and what he did get, wasn't able to really make stick. And Sorensen as well. Stiepermann, he came on for Dowell, I think it was about 30 minutes left, and he did test the keeper a couple of times, but also lost the ball a couple of times, 2 or 3 times, quite cheaply. So that was his first game in 3 months. So you're not going to stick it too hard. You're not going to stick it too hard to any of the Norwich players, are you? They're unbeaten in 10 games. So it's a disappointing little setback, but they can't win every game, clearly. And when a team turns up and actually takes you on at football and doesn't park the bus, then it's not so galling, is it? And they still should have won it, as I'll run through now, really. But Campbell hit the post in the 6th minute. That came from a Buendia charge forward, and Lenihan, the Blackburn captain, just got in the way at the right time and managed to deflect the ball, looped onto the post, although from where we were sat, it didn't look like it hit the post, but once we've seen the replay, it very clearly did. And Kieran Dowell, as I say, probably not as eye-catching as he had been at Forest in midweek or at Sheffield Wednesday in the second half in his general play, but he did create 3 chances, and created the goal, his first assist for Norwich. So overall, he probably tired a little bit as well, and that's why Stiepermann came on. But it certainly wasn't a bad performance or anything. He's still finding his rhythm. It probably shows you. And if anything, I'd argue he probably looked a bit more comfortable on the right, cutting in sort of a Buendia role than he maybe did in that central 10 role. Maybe that's just the way that Norwich play. But how that could be encouraging is that if somebody does offer the big money for Buendia this summer and manages to prize him away from Norwich, then maybe you've got a potential replacement there in Kieran Dowell, who cuts in. He's got a strong left foot, isn't he? As we saw at Forest, and throughout his career, like that loan spell at Forest, he certainly has got a good left foot on him. So we'll see. It's going to be really interesting to see how he develops, because him finishing the season with momentum is going to be potentially very important moving forward. It was a Dowell free kick, 33rd minute, whipped it in. I think it was sort of a pre-planned move, really, because McLean moved to the near post and then flicked his header over the bar. Kaminski tipped a Buendia shot onto the crossbar in the 36th minute. That was also set up by Dowell. Really good bit of play, actually, into the right channel. Couldn't quite get the shot away, so good feet to cut back and pass it left-footed to Buendia, who managed to shift it onto his left and poke goalwards. Again, that was Lenihan, I'm fairly sure, who managed to get the deflection on that, and Kaminski pushes it onto his bar. So 0-0 at half-time. Norwich nearly got the breakthrough just before they actually did score. That was Pookie, and that came from a lovely Ben Gibson long ball, which caught out the Blackburn defence. Pookie through. It does really well to get it under a spell, really, to control it and set up the opportunity. Leathers it left-footed across the keeper, and Kaminski just sticks out his left foot at the last minute, and we were sort of right behind it. I think that was flying into the far bottom corner. So it felt like Norwich had woken up at that point, and then within 60 seconds, the goal comes. Buendia finds McLean on the edge of the box, who exchanges a nice 1-2 with Kieran Dowell, and then Kenny just leathers it right-footed. 3rd goal of the season, one of them being an FA Cup goal against Coventry in January, and as I say, a first assist for Norwich for Kieran Dowell. But really, particularly with Gibson's injury in the mix, the rest of the second half was very scrappy and very chaotic, really. Both teams were going for it, really, but both teams were also working really hard to disrupt the other. And there was a lot of strange moments, misplaced passes. It was quite an odd game overall in a lot of ways. But the goal comes 77th minute, Todd Cantwell, and he's got to take a bit of a blame. It's Elliot Bennett who crosses from the right. The former Norwich player had come on at right back, and Todd's hands are sort of up in the air as he goes into block, and he obviously doesn't expect the ball to come up near his head, but it hits his hand. Fair play, free kick. And then Lewis Holtby curls a lovely free kick to the back post, and Sam Gallagher, one of the subs who come on for Blackburn, a big guy, and he just towered over Jacob Sorensen, really. And it's a good header to squeeze it past Tim Krul at the back post as well. So a decent goal, and I think Blackburn probably did deserve it. I think if they would have left here without getting a point today, they would have felt hard done by, despite the fact, as I say, that Norwich have had the bigger chances. They sort of peppered Tim Krul's goal with not particularly threatening attempts throughout, really, which is why, as I said earlier, they had 11 shots at goal. In amongst the Crystal Zimmerman had come on for Gibson in the 80th minute. The biggest chance, really, again, a good save from Kaminski, who's probably a contender for man of the match, along with Lenihan for Blackburn. Lovely little bit of play between Pukki and Cantwell, 1-2, and Cantwell just dinks a looped cross, spins the ball in behind, really, and Pukki, just as he's pulling the trigger, it's Lenihan there again, chucking himself in front of the ball to block the ball behind. And that was the biggest one, really. As I said, Stiepermann had a couple of shots. He threaded Buendia into the right channel and just put a bit too much on it. And Buendia manages to get the ball on goal, but Kaminski saves with his feet. And then the real chaos, right in the 4th minute of added time, a Blackburn corner is cleared, but Rothwell just thumps it low back into the box. Stiepermann makes a block with his feet. I'm not sure if he knew too much about it, but he was right place, right time. And then Cantwell charges clear. It's 3v3. Todd, Pukki, Max Aarons. Aarons absolutely herring forward on the left with great pace. But Blackburn charging back as well. And Todd just tries to fire the ball into Pukki's feet. And if Timu had managed to control it, he was in on goal and just had the keeper to beat. But he just couldn't quite keep the ball with him. That's a very loud lawnmower. Right behind me now. I thought I'd managed to escape most of them. But yeah, Pukki just couldn't quite bring it under his spell. So in the end, a 1-1 draw. But as we say, 10 unbeaten, still 8 points clear at the top. A little breather now, international break. We've got this strange situation with that Preston game being on Good Friday, haven't we? With several Norwich players potentially international action on the Wednesday night. Loads of players to keep an eye on. Max Aarons, I just called him Aarons, didn't I, a minute ago? Max Aarons. And Ollie Skip with the under-21s, Hanley and McLean with Scotland, Pukki, Puerheta, Hernandez. There's loads for us to keep an eye on during the break, isn't there? Also, it's the FA Youth Cup game. Me and Connor will be back here on Monday to give you coverage of that. The under-18s are playing West Ham in the 4th round. You probably remember that they beat Wolves, I think it was 4-2 in the 3rd round at St George's Park. Abu Kamara scored a hat-trick, but the Youth Cup got postponed for a couple of months. It's now back underway. I don't think the draw for the 5th round's been made yet, so we don't know what's up for grabs. But of course, West Ham, another club who have always taken their academy very seriously, haven't they? And youth production is an important part of their sort of club ethos, or always has been traditionally at least. So that'll be an interesting one. No fans again, of course, but I think the club are hoping to put on a live stream. I'm not sure if that's been confirmed yet, but we'll certainly be here to bring you live updates and a report and let you know how that gets on. But yeah, just a little bit of a breather from the promotion race. We were just looking at a few tweets dropping through. It sounds like Alex Neil may not even be in charge of Preston by the time we get to Deepdale in a couple of weeks, or a couple of weeks yesterday, Good Friday. He's under pressure. They've had a real downturn in form. I think it was Luton they lost to today. So we shall see. But that would be an interesting angle from a Norwich City point of view, wouldn't it, ahead of the game? And yeah, I think that'll do for now. Thank you very much for watching. Feels odd to have not been reporting on a win, and a little bit disappointing because I think we were all hoping for that symmetry, weren't we, of 10 straight wins to get back to the Premier League off the back of 10 defeats as they got relegated last year. Thanks very much for watching.